Hey everybody, it's your old pal Dominic here, and I just want to remind you to behave. Did you hear the rumors that another Austin Powers movie is coming out?
It's about damn time.
Yeah, well, slowly roll, because I'm pretty sure these rumors come out like every 3 months that they're working on the script. They just want to get it perfect.
Yeah, it's never going to be perfect.
Yeah, no, probably not. But I want to thank you guys for tuning into the episode this week. We have a great show for you that includes the latest movie news and our random thoughts and opinions, ranging from insightful to downright obnoxious. As I said before, I am Dominic Damore, and this is the I've Had Better Podcast Movies Edition. Let's kick it off. James, what do we have for the fans this week?
We've got 2 trailers to start with, and then a few stories, and then some quick hitters towards the end.
One that everybody's going to love, and one that nobody's ever heard of.
I agree. Couldn't agree more with that statement. The first trailer is the Disney animated Dwayne Johnson, going to be a franchise, I'm hoping. Just like everything else Dwayne Johnson does. Moana. I think I said that correctly. Not completely sure. Yeah, we'll just roll with it. Which is about a young woman that sets sail to find a fabled island. And along is her demigod, Mao, played by Dwayne Johnson.
This teaser trailer was just released. We record the show on Monday, so it was just released yesterday. And it's already found its way magically to the IHB podcast page, which can be found at www.ihbpodcast.com. Boom. Tag teamed. It's the trailer of the week, and I really liked it. It had Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, as you said, and he came off as macho and full of himself, and he was using his kind of higher pitched voice as opposed to like the classic Rock you hear, and I thought he was extremely entertaining.
I agree. One of my favorite parts in the teaser trailer was when he gave the people's eyebrow, which was perfect. It couldn't have timed it any better, and it just made me think of The Rock.
Yeah, I agree.
From his days of WWF, not EF, for all you young folks that don't know what the WWF is.
Yeah, I agree. One of my favorite moments where it oozed The Rockness, where he's telling the story of the legend of himself, and it's going through his it looks like cave drawings, but then you realize it's his tattoos, and the one tattoo keeps dancing or moving, and he's like, "Hey, stop it!"
Yep.
I love that moment, and it made me laugh, and I thought The Rock was perfect, and it's got that goofy feel that you want from a Disney movie, but at the same time, you bet it's gonna be a tearjerker.
Yeah, it's gonna pull at your emotional strings a little bit, and it'll be nice to see Dwayne Johnson do that. I think he definitely has that ability. It'll be good to see.
Yeah, I mean, as we all know, he kind of started his career. He cut his teeth with Disney with movies like The Game Plan and Race to Witch Mountain. And while those movies aren't, and Tooth Fairy, especially Tooth Fairy, while those movies aren't great, they let you see a different side of The Rock. And I guarantee it's built who he's become today. He's a better actor because he did those softer movies early on. He was always going to be able to be the brute and the badass, but the fact that he was able to build that softer side, it makes you excited to see this movie. Not only because it's from the guys that brought you The Little Mermaid and Frozen and all those Disney classics that we remember, but also, I mean, Disney knows what they're doing, and they know The Rock is amazing at what he does.
Yep, couldn't agree more.
Also, it's fun to see the branching out of cultures and races from Disney.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, because growing up, it was white Disney princess after white Disney princess, and short of
Pocahontas.
Pocahontas,
wow, I almost messed up that name.
Almost. Short of Pocahontas and Jasmine, there was nobody to relate to. But in the past few years, we've gotten I don't know her actual name because it's been a while since I've seen the movie, but the princess from Princess and the Frog. She's African American. And then we had, obviously we had Mulan when we were growing up in the late 90s.
Yep.
But now we have this Samoan or Pacific Island type Disney princess. So that's cool. Also, just in my own research, Alan Tudyk is in this film. He was not featured in the trailer, but he's one of my favorite actors. I love what he does.
It's the pirate from Dodgeball.
It is, yes. It's Pirate Steve from Dodgeball. He's a great actor. He was in Firefly, and he's one of my favorite parts of Transformers 3, which is not a very good movie, but I loved his part in the movie. So I'm really looking forward to Moana.
Yep, I agree. It'll be a good movie. Well, let's start off with disappointment, as multiple sources are saying that Anthony Hopkins has signed on to star in Transformers 5 The Last Night. Very little details available outside of saying the Academy Award winner is attached, but yay or nay on Hopkins in the Transformers universe.
I actually had a bit of turmoil when I was thinking of this, because part of me was like, oh, why are they dragging this fantastic actor into these movies? I don't need him to be in Transformers. But then the other half of me was like, hey, what was the last good movie Anthony Hopkins was in?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I did some research. The last movie that he was in that I thought was at least decent was Thor: The Dark World from a couple years ago. And even that, he's a side character who's not in the movie very much. And after that, the last movie I can tell you that he was in that I thoroughly enjoyed was the remake of The Wolfman, and most people don't like that movie. So the question isn't why Transformers is dragging him in. The question is this what he is now?
This is upsetting if that's true.
Yeah.
But that's a good point. He hasn't really done anything. I don't know if he just doesn't want to do a long drawn out movie anymore. If he's tired of that and he just wants to do these, quick things where he can work for maybe a month, a couple weeks, if that.
Like, because most of his movies lately, I guarantee he's not been on set for more than like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah. So maybe he's just looking for those quick paychecks to sort of stay relevant in case, the right script comes along and the right movie that he wants to do. Or he could be, doing the Gene Hackman where he just doesn't like seeing himself as an older gentleman
on
possible. Screen.
That's possible.
I don't know.
The saving grace for this casting, though, you just give up on the fact that Anthony Hopkins is going to be in a great movie ever again. As long as he is a Transformer / Decepticon / robot, I'm okay with it.
It's just his voice at that point.
Exactly. Like Leonard Nimoy was in the third Transformers movie, and granted, I don't think any worse of Leonard Nimoy for being in that movie. He's got a great voice. Let him put it inside of a giant robot, and to be honest, it would be kind of cool to see a giant robot kick some ass with Anthony Hopkins' voice.
Yeah, he's got a tremendous voice. It'd be a good move for him to do it.
Yeah, so I'm going to hold out hope, but if he is in a live action role, I am kicking this one so far down the road.
Rightfully so.
Yeah. Has there been any Anthony Hopkins movie in the recent years that you actually enjoyed? I know he's going to be in another film called Collide coming out soon with Nicholas Hoult and Felicity Jones from the upcoming Star Wars film. If you saw that trailer, did you like his performance in that? Let us know at the IHB Podcast Twitter page, which can be found at IHB Podcast, or send us an email to ihbpodcast@gmail.com. Next up, fans of the 1980s romcoms and legendary actor Tom Hanks may want to cover their ears as Uber producer Brian Grazer, in an interview with CNBC's Carl Quintanilla, confirmed that a remake of the film Splash, a film about a man who falls in love with a mermaid, is in the works. Few other details are available at this time, but what are your thoughts on the potential remake, James?
I think it could be a good move. I mean, Splash came out in 1984. Been a while. I think it makes sense that they're ready to do another one, just to reboot it or remake it. But is it necessary? Probably not. Another way for Hollywood to, go the easy route and already take existing characters. Or, I mean, I don't even know what they're going to do if Tom Hanks is going to be in this one at some point.
You have to assume he's got at least a cameo, right? Like him and Daryl Hannah have to show up in like some scene.
You would think that, but who knows what they'll actually do.
I'm not a particular fan of the idea of the remake, although if Tom Hanks shows up as some form of a mer person, I'm in. Fish below the waist and just his like hairy ass old man chest hanging out. I'm don't even care. This movie deserves to be made. But as far as the Splash from the 1984, the movie made like $70 million domestically. Change that with inflation, it's about $160 million. So the movie made money. It was popular. I don't think it translates well to today's audience, because that movie was a bit more goofy, and I think today's audiences aren't looking for that. Like,
I mean, what if they just went more of a raunchier Splash?
Which is possible.
Those movies tend to be doing well lately.
Yeah, like you start Seth Rogen as opposed to Tom Hanks. It could happen. I'm not a huge fan.
They're both a similar hair type, right?
Yeah. The other thing is we had a movie come out a couple years ago. Granted, it was for a younger generation, but it's called Aquamarine. Similar plot concept. Nobody fell in love with a mermaid that I know of, but some girls befriended one for sure, and they went through all the shenanigans of having a mermaid on land. So I get why they're doing it, because Splash was a hit back then, and hey, if they keep the budget low and they are able to squeak out a few dollars, go for it. But overall, it's not something I'm going to be particularly interested in, and if I wasn't doing a show about movies, I probably wouldn't see it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I wouldn't see it unless someone I know or it got decent reviews. That's the only chance I'd have to see it.
Yeah. First Splash, 92% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Pretty high.
Yeah. Granted, it's only been rated by like 38 people, so take that for what you will.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of the potential Splash remake? And is there anybody in particular you guys want cast? You got any ideas on casting?
Zac Efron.
Alexander Daddario. Boom. We just made a classic. All right, on to the next story.
Thanks to Variety, we now know what famed director's Ron Howard's next project will be. The report says that he will be reuniting with the Apollo 13 writer Bill Broyles on the science fiction epic Seven Eves?
I read it as Seven Eves.
Seven Eves?
But that is basically a guess. It's a science fiction film. We're going to say untitled to this point.
Yeah. We are not English majors.
No, we are not. And also, that's not English, so.
We can't read.
Yeah, well.
The story is based on a novel by Neil Stevenson in which a catastrophic event renders the Earth as a ticking time bomb, leading to nations around the world to work together to devise a plan to ensure the survival of the species. What are your thoughts on Howard's new project?
Conceptually, I hesitate to say it's even interesting to me, because to me, it sounds like a mashup of The Core, the Hilary Swank, Aaron Eckhart film, and Interstellar.
Quite possibly.
Yeah, it feels like a direct mashup of those two. From what I understand, the catastrophic event is the moon shatters into 7 pieces, and then those 7 pieces keep colliding into each other, and they create a white haze around the world, essentially cooking it from within, and within 2 years, it'll be unlivable. So the nations around the world have to send younger generations of people up to a space station to live. Conceptually, it's okay, but like I said, it feels like a mismatch of those two films we've already seen to me. And also, I'm curious about how Ron Howard handles the big budget films anymore. The last movie that I saw that he made was In the Heart of the Sea with Chris Hemsworth. It was a fine movie. I wouldn't say it's particularly good. I enjoyed watching it, but it wasn't the masterpiece you were kind of expecting, I guess. And he makes those, which we've talked about in the past, awful Robert Ludlum books, or not Robert Langdon books. Inferno and Angels and Demons and Da Vinci Code, which I question whether he can handle these massive projects.
That's a good point. I didn't really think of that at all. I was just reading the Wikipedia of the book, and it says the narrative jumps to 5,000 years later. And I'm just curious how they're going to do that in a movie. Because obviously no one's going to live that long. So it'll be interesting, I guess.
Just to retouch on that, the idea, like, I think Howard's at his best when he's working on a smaller level. Like Rush, I thought was great because it was down to...
Rush was a great movie.
It was down to, like, more of the person. Like, you were inside Niki Lauda's head and you were inside James Hunt's head. Like, and it was a character movie. Or there's A Beautiful Mind, which is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Still is.
That is a small movie. It takes place roughly within a man's head. Like, there's some big concepts that they go into, and he's talking about, like, all the spies that he's seeing and stuff like that. But overall, it's a one-man show with some heavily involved, hesitate to say, visions, and the always wonderful Jennifer Connelly.
So beautiful.
Yeah. Anytime you can squeeze her into an IHB podcast, it's always going to be a good day.
I agree.
Yeah. So, what do you guys think of this Ron Howard potential movie? Do you think he can still handle the big budget films? Have you liked any of his work recently? Let us know in the comments section below on this video on YouTube, or hit us up on Twitter at ihbpodcast. Variety is also reporting that Sacha Baron Cohen will star in the long-awaited Mandrake the Magician film. By long-awaited, I don't mean that many people have been clamoring for it for years. I just mean it's been in development for a very, very long time. Ethan Cohen of the film Get Hard with Kevin Hart and Will Ferrell from a few years ago is set to direct the film for Warner Brothers Studio. With little known about the character, what do you make of the potential project, James?
I don't really care, to be completely honest. I'm not such a huge fan of Sacha Baron Cohen. That's mostly because of Bruno, the Dictator, and the Brothers Grimsby.
Yeah.
I didn't even see the Brothers Grimsby, and I don't care for it. Yeah. So, I mean, take it or leave it.
Something to consider about this movie, though, is all the movies you mentioned that you didn't like, they were his creation. Like, he wrote them, he came up with the characters. This is something that he didn't create. Now, he's a creative guy, so he'll probably have a little bit of input on the character, but this is somebody else's stuff. It's based off of a 1930s comic strip in which there's a man, Mandrake the Magician, who is actually a magician. He has the power to hypnotize people. He can fly, turn invisible. He's got magic powers, and during the day, he portrays himself as a normal, bumbling stage magician, but at night he fights crime. Like, he fights some crime lords and gangsters and things like that. And to me, I like the idea of this movie. It falls a little bit into that superhero trope, to where it'll probably follow a consistent pattern, like origin, mission.
Don't forget the training.
Yes, don't forget the training. So things like that. But at the same time, it's not very well known, so it's not like you're going to have a whole bunch of people being like, oh no, they put too many muscles on Peter Parker. He's supposed to be much thinner.
I agree.
Yeah, so
that part of it's good, and I do like that he is not writing this or creating this. That changes a lot, actually. That's a complete game changer. So I'm okay with this movie now. I feel better about it.
I'm glad I could sway you. But to be honest, I think Sacha Baron Cohen's a very talented actor in films that he is not personally creating.
I agree.
Oh, what was that movie?
The French Revolution one?
Oh, in Les Mis? He was good in Les Mis. But no, it's actually an animated movie. It's from Martin Scorsese. Hugo. He plays a train station police officer type thing.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. He
was very good in that movie. Granted, it was animated, but I believe it was like live action motion capture type stuff. So you see him through that character, and I thought he was great in that. So I'm looking forward to the movie, actually. And plus, I'm always in for bringing back these old properties. Let's go on to the next topic.
According to the Hollywood Reporter, it appears Mel Gibson and his Braveheart scribe Randall Wallace are developing a sequel to the 2004 Passion of the Christ. The story would center around the resurrection of Jesus. Wallace himself confirmed that he has been working on a script and that rumors had become too large to ignore. Give it or take the potential Passion of the Christ sequel.
It makes sense as a movie. It will make money. I'm surprised it hasn't happened so far, but most likely that's due to Mel Gibson's history over the last few years. He was basically untouchable in Hollywood for a while, and now is just kind of starting to get back into the flow of things. And even then, a lot of people aren't willing to work with him, so it makes sense he wants to do his own thing.
Yeah, I agree. And interesting that it hasn't been made yet. And I don't know if he's just had his grip on it and he wasn't going to let go until he did it. It makes sense that they're going to do it. It makes even better sense that he would pick someone as good as Randall Wallace to help him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's another Catholic Jesus movie that's probably going to make a lot of money because people are going to want to go see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's also not like the movie hasn't been made. Like,
oh, that's true. I
saw that movie earlier this year, Risen.
Mm-hmm.
With which wasn't a bad movie, and it basically tells the story of Jesus' resurrection. And the movie made bank. We talked about it making solid money at the box office. The original Passion of the Christ that Mel Gibson made back in 2004 made over $600 million at the box office on a $30 million budget.
Yeah,
I don't think the sequel will be able to approach those numbers.
Those are crazy numbers.
Yeah, it's also the material difficult to phrase because you don't want to offend anybody, but it's not quite as entertaining film-wise. Like, one of the things about the Passion of the Christ, even non-Christians who don't believe in Jesus could go to that movie and just see what a man is put through, like the lashings and the beatings and the torture, and see, and because it was a gruesome film, hard to watch at points, and you could just like connect with him on that level. But this one doesn't have that element to it. So non-Christian, non-Catholics might not be as interested.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're Muslim, are you really going to go out and want to see the resurrection of Christ? Or if you're Hindu, is this going to be something you're interested in? Whereas the first one had more cinematic value, this one probably not so much. Granted, again, that's if it focuses solely on the resurrection.
Yeah. I think that there's enough Christian followers that I don't think that matters, and I still think it's going to make a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, you keep the budget relatively low, which, I mean, the first one was $30 million, so...
Let's say this one's 50.
Yeah, it's going to make $300 million at the box office. Yeah. So, it's a solid move for him career-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Reputation-wise, who knows what it does, but...
I mean, if he can go through this entire film without freaking out at anyone... He might be able to get another job.
Maybe, and if he doesn't, like, completely...
Shit the bed?
Yeah. I was going to say make fun of Jews, but...
Well, that'll probably happen anyway.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
That's a tough thing to do. To escape the idea that you're an anti-Semite while making a Christian film.
Yeah, it doesn't really work together.
Yeah. So, what do you guys think of a potential Passion of the Christ sequel with Mel Gibson at the helm? Are you on board with the idea of the film? Are you on board with the idea of Mel Gibson helming it? Let us know on the Facebook page. That's the I've Had Better Facebook page. James, what does it feel like our two favorite topics are at IHB?
Most recently, Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Yeah.
And I don't know the other one. Why don't you tell me?
The other one would be the casting rumors surrounding the Ocean's 11 spinoff.
Oh,
that
absolutely.
Features only women.
How could I forget that one?
Yeah, it's honestly amazing. We already talked about Dwayne Johnson earlier with the Moana story, and now we're getting the spinoff news. Showbiz 411 is saying that Mindy Kaling of the Mindy Project and Helena Bonham Carter of Fight Club and every Tim Burton movie are in talks to join the cast of the Ocean's 11 spinoff, which already is rumored to include Sandra Bullock and Cate Blanchett. In addition to the casting news, Showbiz 411 is also saying that Jennifer Lawrence, who James and I talked about a few weeks ago, also being attached to the film, is no longer going to take part due to scheduling conflicts.
She better be doing something great instead of this, or I'm going to be pissed.
I was thinking the same thing, because, like,
this is a good career move for her.
And as long as she's not, like, contractually obligated, which I'm sure she was probably, like, she better not have been the one to back out, because, like, as many high-level talented actresses that are in this movie, rumored, or will end up being in this movie, she would have benefited greatly from being around those people.
I agree. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. But what do you think of the casting that we still might have?
They're good choices. Strong female actresses. definitely fit for a Ocean's 11 remake. Mindy Kaling is definitely a strong character, and she's going to be that comedic relief for sure, which is good. And then Helena Bonham Carter, I'm not sure how she's going to be played. It is a little interesting because I'm used to seeing her super dark hair, pasty skin, trying to be all creepy.
Tim Burton.
Yeah, basically Tim Burton. Tim Burton-esque. And I don't know how that's going to play in the lighter Ocean's 11 film.
Yeah. Mindy Kaling is the only one that I'm slightly questioning. I like her. I especially love what she did on The Office and things like that. And I've seen a couple episodes of the Mindy Project, and it's a solid. It's got a strong following. She just hasn't done a ton of film work, but I recently saw her in The Night Before with that Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Seth Rogen film and Anthony Mackie from last winter. And she has a small part in that movie, but she's fantastic. She makes a lot of jokes in a short period of time, and I really enjoyed her. So I think this will be a good move for her. I think she could be, like you said, that comedic relief and along the lines of Scott Conn, because her jokes are very cutting. She'll make a joke about somebody's weight or something like that, and I think she'd be great in that role. It's a smaller role, but it's a memorable one.
I agree.
Scott Conn is not a great actor, but it's hard not to remember him in the Ocean's series.
Yeah, it helps that he was always arguing with his brother Casey Affleck in the movies, which is very relatable.
Mm-hmm. As far as Carter goes, I think she's a phenomenal actress. I think she's a chameleon, and that's why I could see. And unfortunately, we don't know enough about the movie, so all we can do is just compare it to the old Ocean's 11 movies we've seen. But I think she could play that distraction type role that was filled by Carl Reiner, who is in the first film. He's the one who wants to have his jewel put in the safe and things like that, and he has the heart attack that distracts everybody from the monitors. I think she's that kind of over the top actress who you could put in any situation, put her wig on her and things like that, and she could drop like 6 different accents and it could be amazing.
I agree. I didn't even think about that. It's a very good point. I like that a lot.
What's your favorite Helena Bonham Carter movie?
Fight Club.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
No hesitation.
Although I watched Sweeney Todd last night.
Sweeney Todd is
I really like her
close
in that
second.
movie. Like, I don't think that movie's great overall, but I love her in that movie.
Yeah.
All right. So, what do you guys think of the casting? Are you more excited for Mindy Kaling and Helena Bonham Carter to be in the movie? Or are you more disappointed with Jennifer Lawrence not being in the movie? Let us know on ihbpodcast.com or hit us up on Twitter at ihbpodcast. Also, I'm going to throw a poll up on the Twitter page asking that exact question. So, answer, please. Although nobody follows our Twitter. Like, we have 27 followers. I'm pretty sure 13 or 14 of them are just sex bots. Like, all right, so that's the end of our main news section. Here comes the beloved by all section of crap we didn't have time for. In this section, we have stories that either James and I aren't particularly informed about, or they just popped up and kind of you get the gist of what they're about in the title. So feel free to research these on your own, or when more details come out, we'll inform you guys of the more interesting tidbits. First up, we have Angelina Jolie to star in Murder on the Orient Express remake. Then Edge of Tomorrow director Doug Liman is in talks to direct a young adult thriller, Chaos Walking. John Williams will be returning to score Episode 8 and the next Indiana Jones film. And finally, Doctor Strange and Guardian of the Galaxy 2 will have panels at Comic-Con. James, of the 4 that I just named, which one sparks your fancy? Lights a fire under your bum.
The Doctor
Tickles
Strange.
your dingly bits.
Stop it. Do not go there. The Doctor Strange and Guardians of the Galaxy will have panels at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Because I want more information on each of those.
Yeah.
And mostly Guardians of the Galaxy, but I will take Doctor Strange with it.
Yeah, and this is kind of a big deal because for those of you who are unaware, bringing back that catchphrase, Comic-Con has seen a bit of an exiting over the last few years. Marvel didn't have any panels last year. DC still kind of has a big thing, but for the most part, Disney as a whole, they've been doing their own thing that they call D3, where they essentially have their own Comic-Con each year. Like this year it's out in London, last year it was in Los Angeles, and they talk about all of their properties and things like that. So the fact that Doctor Strange and Guardians of the Galaxy are coming back it's important, because that's a big part of Comic-Con. And at this point, Comic-Con has grown so big, you wonder if it's grown too massive to handle itself. But I think the idea that they're coming back is important.
What about you? Pick one.
I'm going with John Williams returning for Star Wars and Indiana Jones. This isn't
that was a good one.
It is not like a monumental shifter, because I think there are enough good composers nowadays, and particularly with Star Wars, it's so hallowed that nobody's gonna make nobody's gonna drop dubstep in the middle of Star Wars.
I mean, to be honest, a lot of the sounds are already set for probably a majority of the film.
Yeah, so I think I like the idea that he's coming back just because it's John Williams. I mean, living legend. And also I like what he said. The reason he's coming back is because he couldn't imagine anyone else writing music for Daisy Ridley. And that was like right in the feels. That's like, Daisy Ridley is such a good person.
Yep.
So that I find that entertaining.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So go ahead and do your own research for the rest of those. I have no interest in most of them, for the record. Yeah. But now we go into the very special section of today's show. It is the Pick It or Kick It, where James and I both pick one story that we thought was extremely interesting today, and one story that we have absolutely no desire to follow up on.
I was going to say the same word.
James, what is your pick to pick?
My pick to pick.
Exactly.
Is, of course, the two female cast members that are going to be joining Sandra Bullock and Cate Blanchett, the Ocean's 11 remake.
That's a good one.
The female cast, for sure. I'm still all in on this movie. I'm very excited for it, and I'm just curious to see who else they're going to pick.
Yeah. It's going to be tough to top those in our pickets for the next couple of months, because so far they've only added extremely talented people. So until they get Leslie Jones, Leslie Jones has been cast, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So until that happens, it's going to be just pick after pick for these castings. For me personally, my pick is going to be the Moana trailer. This movie looks so good. I love the idea that The Rock's in it. I think it's going to be heartwarming. I think it's going to be a little bit heart-wrenching, just like all Disney films are. And I'm really looking forward to it. Plus, it looks beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, they're in Hawaii. What's not to like?
Yeah, I am not a beach guy. It does not look right when I roll up on the beach. But this movie made me want to go check out those sparkling blue oceans.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah. I've been agreeing with you a lot today.
You have. Well, it helps that I make really good points.
That's true. It's hard to disagree with you.
How about your kick, James?
It should be Transformers, but I'm going to go easy on it because Anthony Hopkins is special to me. The kick for sure is Sacha Baron Cohen movie. I just don't care. I mean, I like the idea of the magician and that Sacha Baron Cohen has no creative input on this, but I don't really like him that much as for this movie role.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. I disagree, but it makes sense. For me, and this may be blasphemous, I'm going to kick the Passion of the Christ sequel. I don't think it has much cinematic value. I think it will make money just because of the type of movie it is and the following that it will have. But to me, the movie Risen that I saw earlier this year, it accomplished everything that the sequel to Passion of the Christ could. And it did it very well. It was a good movie. I enjoyed it. I saw it with my mom, and she loved it too, and she's a very devout Catholic. So I just don't think it's quite necessary, and I think it's might be part of Mel Gibson just being like, hey, this will kind of get me back in the good graces.
I disagree. I think he just wants to make this movie because he wants to. and he doesn't care what people think about it.
It's possible. But as always, we can agree to disagree. Let us know what your guys' pickets and kickets are for this week. Any of the topics that we talked about are fair game. Or if you guys have your own, submit your picks and kicks and hit us up on multiple social media sites. With that being said, I want to thank you all for tuning in this week. If you liked this episode, please like the episode physically. It's that little thumbs up button down there. And also maybe leave us a comment. Those are always welcome. And subscribe to the I've Had Better Podcast Network. Also, you can follow us on Twitter at IHB Podcast or on Facebook at the IHB Podcast page. Go give us a like and invite your friends. James, tell the people where they can find you on the internet.
On the old interweb, you can find me on Twitter at @the_Kaiser_Soze or on Facebook as Jimmy Langos. And don't forget to check out the website, www.ihbpodcast.com. And please like and subscribe to our iTunes.
Yep, and you can just find that by going to iTunes and searching IHB Podcast, IHB Movies, or just I've Had Better. We should pop right up. Or even better yet, you can just go straight to the website that James mentioned, www.ihbpodcast. Scroll down the homepage, or on several of the pages and posts that I have, you'll see a link that'll take you right to downloading our latest episode. As always, I am Dominic Damore. You can follow me on Twitter at Dom Damore, or on Facebook as Dominic Damore. James, how was your show today?
I've had better.
Good night, everybody.